All right. Welcome to Pass the Mic. It is episode 59. We are moving into February, Friday, February 3rd, 2023. We are on Zoom. Mike Pehote here in Brownstown Township, also in Brownstown Township. Mr. Michael Gervasi, hello.
Hey, sport, here's a thought from the old school crew, a serious situation we all go through. Mike?
Um,
Wait a minute. No, hold on. Rick, do you know who that is?
I don't off the top of my head. It sounds familiar. I'm very good at knowing lyrics to pretty much every song that comes on, but not when it's like that.
Okay,
see,
so I'll
see,
give you guys a hint real quick. Nicki Minaj mentioned him in the song Sigh, like the guy with the thing on his eye. No? It's Slick Rick.
Oh yeah, okay.
Slick. Well, as you can, if you're going to watching this on our video feed, you see we do, and now you hear we have a guest. We have a special guest, a friend of Mike Gervasi's, Mr. Rick Thorning, joining us. He's sort of going to bail me out here a little bit. It's a little hard when you're under the, on pressure and having to hear a song, out of nowhere.
It's very tough. Like I said,
Yes.
you can know a lot of lyrics to songs, but then when you hear someone say it and you got to start putting it together, it's a little tough.
Yeah. And we're going to let Rick introduce himself here in a little bit, like we normally do with our guests. But this is really like our first big celebrity guest. Although Kyle Oliveira may think differently, but he was one of the managers of the 21 Taylor World Little League World Series champions.
Yeah,
97 won the ticket. ESPN famous. So we tried to get Mike Tomlin on as our first big celebrity, but now we have our first big celebrity, Rick. So that's awesome. So
I'll take it.
With that, we're going to talk about errors or mistakes. You know what? I was thinking about this when I was writing my notes. Knock on wood, errors. We haven't really had many errors other than my hip hop. We've been on a pretty good hot streak. I'm probably jinxing us for tonight, but errors. But feedback. Do you get any feedback on anything this week?
Hey, Rick, you know Antoine, right? Antoine Terry.
Yeah.
He chimed in. He sent a text. He knows all the NBA champs since his birth. And this one got me. All the All-Star Game MVPs since the 1980s.
Oh, man, my goodness.
That's
like tough.
All-Star Game MVPs. Like, I know Isaiah Thomas won 2 of them. I think 85 was one of the years. But, man, I honestly, and Twan's my man and everything else, but dude, I could not care less about All-Star Game.
No. Let alone you tip your cap. You tip your cap to somebody who knows something like that,
exactly.
that can remember something like that.
Yep.
Your prediction that Coach Saavedra would be a sports expert was wrong. He commented on our Facebook page and mentioned that he isn't that great, maybe a little more movie, but not sports trivia. A lot of people did have input on the streaming though, and it seemed like when COVID was going on, everyone wanted everything to be dropped like a whole series. But now that people have more time, they like the week-to-week episodes. Yeah. And a lot of people plug the Last of Us on HBO, or you had a friend, right, that mentioned the game, Mike, how much they like the game. And episode 3 came out last night. We're recording on Monday, or we're ahead of the game this week. And I heard it's really good. But because I'm pinned up against my data cap, I can't watch it till the 1st. So.
Oh man, you got 2 days.
First world problems.
Yeah, right.
So,
right.
Anything else you got, Mike, for the last week?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, we have a guest here, and before we get into our stock questions for our guest, we're going to let Rick maybe introduce himself, maybe do a little better job than I just. You just want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then Mike and I will ask our stock guest questions after that.
Yep, no problem. So, Rick Thorning. So, I live in Brownstown myself. I live in Woodhaven here, and I was the manager of the 2021 Little League World Series team from Taylor North Little League. My son was a member of that team. And then I actually coached in the 2018 and 2022 Junior League World Series, which was held in Taylor. Our goal is to get back to that this year with that same group that won that Little League 2021. And then I do coach at Woodhaven too. I'm in the 8th this year. I'll be in the 8th grade baseball program there as an assistant coach. Kind of been following my younger boy up as we go through Corey Farner's program there in Woodhaven, and and I'm a corrections officer. That's what I do for a living. I've been out in the sheriff's department out in Washtenaw County for about 20 years now, and try to juggle that and coaching. It gets tough, but I manage to get what I can get done. But yeah, coaching's my passion, especially baseball.
Excellent. So Rick, and you have a history with Mike, right? You know Mike from childhood?
Yeah. I've known him growing up. A lot of pickup basketball games. I think that's actually where I mean, we knew of each other throughout high school. Then we started playing basketball and became pretty good friends. Seeing each other, I think every single day we were up at the Taylor Rec playing basketball nonstop.
Yeah,
And
Rick. We actually found out we dated the same girl.
Yeah, we did.
First thing. Now, Rick, I've been telling the guys at work, Mike especially loves these lines. The middle school. See, I went to West, and we used to say West is the best. Where did you go?
I went to Break.
And we used to say
Oh,
break is a fake.
Break is a fake, but it's funny you mentioned that because I got to see if I can find it because we had two. I think West had. I think you guys might have had a couple basketball teams too in the same grade, right?
I think we
Three,
had
right?
three. Yeah.
We had two basketball teams, and both teams were just. I mean, I look back at the names now and they're ridiculous. We had Ricky Williams, Lamont Williams out there. I don't know if you remember those names.
Yeah.
I want to say Antoine, his brother
Lee.
Booby. I think all we had so many players on that team and it was split up with two good teams. I remember they were pretty solid. Just like at West too.
Yeah. We had. Now, do you remember what we said? What we used to say about Hoover?
Hoover,
Hoover is a loser.
yeah, Hoover's a loser. That's right.
now where did Tim
I-
Simons go again? So I can get this all straight.
Tim Simons went to. Now he went to Taylor Center for high school. I'm gonna
Yes.
guess he went to Hoover.
So he,
I believe he was a Hoover. Yeah.
yeah. So he's from the loser school.
Yeah.
So all right.
All
All right.
I seen Tim the other day. I seen him
Yeah.
the other day.
He's our hall monitor now.
Yeah, we see him every
Yeah.
day. So
That's what he
he's a
said.
good guy. Yeah. All right. So our great introduction. We're going to talk more about youth sports in our education segment, but our stock questions for all our guests. We've done these for every guest we've had, and this will be no different tonight. It's your birthday. We're saying it's time for you to pick your meal. So with that, we want to know if you're going out, where you're going, and what you're getting. Or as it's pretty been like a 70-30, right? With our guests, most have been like wanting to have something cooked at home. If it's cooked at home, what is it? So if you're going out, where you're going, what you're getting. If it's cooked a home cooked meal, what do you want? What's your birthday meal?
All right, so I put a lot of thought into this. So kind of in the middle of the keto diet right now. So but my favorite thing probably right now would be a double bacon cheeseburger with guacamole on it, no bun, and just some mustard and ranch on the side. If I had to pick if I could eat that every day, that's my go-to meal.
And is this just you're making it at home, or is there a certain place you want to get it from?
I'd say I would probably go to Buffalo Wild Wings on a good day, good warm day, and sit outside.
Oh, there you go.
That was
Nice.
one of my overrated restaurants, but okay, that's all good.
Yeah, I will say I'm not a big fan of a lot of their wings or their food, but they do make a good burger there.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? I think I would agree.
Maybe their burgers underrated there, Mike.
Yeah, it could be. That's
true. You don't usually think of that as a burger place, but I think their burgers are pretty good.
But I do like their burgers, so that's fair. That's fair. All right, Rick. The follow up to that is you can have this burger, this cholesterol without the.
Trust me,
all I can think of. God, I'm a fun
you're
person.
good.
But you could have with one person, alive or dead. Who would it be?
So I did put some thought into this too, and I could go the easy route here. I had a brother who passed away when I was younger. It'd been great, obviously, to do something like that, which would be great. But I was thinking along the lines of sports, and I think if I could have a dinner with somebody that is no longer with us, I would like to sit down with Sparky Anderson.
Oh.
And I think if I sat down with him, sat outside so he could smoke his pipe, I think that get some knowledge from him and talk to him and just have a couple hours just to get some baseball knowledge out of him. I think that would be great. Something I could pass along to the kids that I coach.
I think he would have been an interesting guy to talk to. I think very folksy type approach from him. He wouldn't have talked over your head ever, but still you just feel like he would be so smart to listen. So I would agree. That's a good one.
Oh yeah.
You almost wonder if a guy like him would even manage nowadays in Major League Baseball or like go up through the coaching ranks. I mean, it's just a different
It is
type of animal.
different breed, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and and the funny thing I always think about Sparky Anderson is when I was a kid growing up, you always thought he was so old, like watching him like in the mid
Yeah.
'80s, but he really wasn't that old back then. Like,
No, it was the
Right.
hair. I think it was that hair.
and the same with Jim Leland. You think about the Tigers had two of
Jim
those
Leland too,
managers
yeah.
that were the same way. You look at like with Jim, those the footage of him fighting with Barry Bonds on YouTube. He was
Oh
a young
man.
guy, but he
Yeah.
looks
Yeah.
like he's
Yep. No, I agree.
yeah, it was just weird that those two guys both ended up in the same town and they both have that same sort of setup. All right, so with that, you did a great job with the questions, and you do have a mic of the week for us.
Yeah, Mike Singletary. I think that's a good one there. I did some research with some of them and figured you guys probably had some of the ones I had up front, and I think he'd be great. He's a sports guy, football guy.
Yeah,
Do you
like
remember the 30 for 30 with about Buddy Ryan?
Yeah.
That it featured Singletary in there, man. That was a different side because he was a very intense,
Yep.
man's man. But man, when he was talking about Buddy Ryan's, passing and all that, so the letter that Buddy Ryan wrote to the Bears defense, he got teary-eyed. That was very touching.
Oh yeah.
I always that 30 for 30 stands out for me too because it's so weird. It was like two teams. Like when they talk when
Yes.
Yep.
when they carried Buddy Ryan off and they
Yeah.
literally the defense really didn't care for Ditka that much.
Right.
In their eyes, Buddy Ryan was the coach.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was just and they came right out and said it. Like,
Yeah.
could you
Mhm.
imagine? Like,
Yeah, they didn't hide it.
yeah, the reporters nowadays would be having a field day, like
Oh,
what
yeah.
the mutiny is, and this or that.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
they basically said they're like, this was our guy, and they
yeah.
carried him off. So great choice, Mike Singletary. Will be heading up to the wall. So with that, we're going to talk about today our education topic because, in all honesty, coaching is very much like our profession of teaching, and as you know, both Mike and I coach or have coached throughout our careers. And we've also coached not only our school sports, but youth sports. Mike's currently an undefeated youth basketball coach, girls basketball. I don't mean to. And I like you said, I coaching your own son. I've done it through the years. Growing up with my kid, I've coached flag football, not travel baseball, but just some recreation baseball in the area and basketball. And now I'm his cross country coach. So we've looked at it both as youth sports and in the schools. And we're going to talk about the benefits of youth sports, the benefits both for young kids, for kids growing up, and for you as an adult. So you want to start us off with that since you are definitely an expert in this area.
Yeah, I think youth sports now it's starting to come back. I think it's kind of lost a little bit of its luster there as far as these video games now and these kids, and you don't see as many kids out in the street now playing football or as many kids playing basketball. So when you have an organized sport such as little league, or whether it's basketball, rec basketball, the YMCA, or little league, or even travel organizations, gets these kids out and it gets them involved in sports with other kids, and it's a great activity for them, bonding activity, just to get out and communicate with other people instead of talking to them on a mic. There's times where in the winter time or something, my kid will talk to somebody every day, but he won't see the person for 3 months because baseball's not going on or something like that. And that's not good. It's good to get these kids out and get them involved into sports. And we grew up on sports. We grew up waiting for this league to start or that league to start to get out and interact. And I think that's a huge key to it. Huge key is get them out, get them out of the house, get them doing stuff. If you have a successful organization or not, it is what it is. It's getting those kids out to be with them, be with each other, and communicate that way.
Yeah, and I want to give you the floor here, Rick. I'm not going to say much on this subject. We talk sports a lot. For me, it's just the idea of working together, the camaraderie of a team. I want to get more from you though on this one, in a sense that, explain to us what you think, for you personally, but more so for the kids. What did that experience in 2021 mean? I want to ask you a personal question about that, but I just in general, talk about that. What did that mean to the kids?
So, I get that question a lot. I do. And sometimes it's hard to explain because, you sit there and growing up, you watch the Little League World Series and you feel like that you're watching something like the major leagues or the NBA or something that a normal regular person isn't going to be able to touch that. Even though you have 11, 12-year-old kids or normal kids who are playing baseball, that they're there, they appear to be on a different level than most people. So just the thought that we were there, and when you, I mean, if you've never been to Williamsport, and it'll bring tears to your eyes when you walk out there, just the sight of this place. So for these kids to walk out there and we arrived there at night to see the field lit up, the lights on, and how immaculate the place was. You get goosebumps. Your hands start shaking. You're like, wow, I can't believe that we're here. And these kids were the same way. These kids, just didn't treat this like, oh, it's just another baseball game. These kids were in shock too. These kids were in awe. They were nervous. And that experience for them and all the support we got back from, the state of Michigan and the city of Taylor and downriver and everybody, they felt that. Those kids felt that. We felt that as coaches. And it's a feeling that you try to soak it all in. You try to sit there. You try to look at the bench a little bit longer. You try to look at the wall a little bit longer. You try to look at the baselines a little bit longer because everything's different. Everything you want to soak in. And the kids did a good job with that. They did a good job with that. And Coach Guido Hewlin, Guido was my assistant coach in there. And we had many nights to where when we got back to our dorm after a game or after practice, that we sat down and relaxed and we're just like, dude, I can't believe we're here. Like, I can't believe we're here. And the kids, the same thing with the kids. The kids enjoyed it. They had an absolute blast. When you're there, and that's one thing I tip my cap to Little League Baseball is when the kids are there, they treat these kids like they're kings. Every single kid that's on every single team there, they treat them like they're kings. They treat them like, that they're special kids,
Yeah.
and they'll never forget that experience. Neither will we.
All right, Mike, just a couple more follow-up and I'm going to give you the floor.
Oh, no, go ahead.
So
You're doing
Rick,
great.
just two more quick ones. The first is, how was it for you personally? Like, I mean, it was just weird for me. I've known you forever, and I get in my car and you're on 97.1 The Ticket. It's
Yeah.
like, I know that guy. You know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
how cool was that? And I mean, I know you've always been a humble guy, down to earth, but how was that?
It was amazing, for people to reach out like that. And I did so many radio interviews, even besides with 97 Won the Ticket, that I have to try to think back to which ones they were. But the best thing about 97 Won the Ticket for me was obviously the people there were great, and every morning that I was in Williamsport, I set my alarm for 6 o'clock. I grabbed me a coffee and I went and sat on the hill at Williamsport, like the hill, and I sat there and did my radio interview with them. And it was nice to talk, to bring 97 Won a Ticket kind of with us there on that journey. They were there the whole time, and it was, it was cool. It took me a couple interviews to get used to answering the questions and making sure I say the right things. But they were good. They were good people there.
All right, and and again, I don't want to go too far off track here because I mean, this is a hell of an experience for youth, for the kids there. But the last one is more personal to you. How much, for me, it was touching watching that last game and then mentioning your brother.
Yeah.
How can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So during that time, like, obviously, my brother had a lot. I had a lot of good friends. My brother had a lot of really good friends. We grew up around good crowds, and during that time, I was getting a lot of text messages from people that were friends of mine, but more friends of my brother's, where I didn't have their number in my phone. And they were texting me like, dude, it's great to see Cameron wearing 23. It's great to see Cameron wearing 23, So somebody else mentioned it to like I said, I have no problem talking about it and stuff like that. And I don't go around talking about it, but I do talk about it. And somebody else mentioned it to ESPN, and they contacted me about it. I
Oh,
guess somebody
wow.
called in there. Yeah. So they said, do you want to elaborate a little more on the 23? I'm like, yeah, I had no problem with that. You can ask me questions. So, 23 is a big number in our family, with my nieces and my nephews and stuff all wearing it. And to be able to go on that stage and to be able to just talk about him for a minute, it was a great feeling.
Okay.
So I just want to ask real quick, because we're sort of talking. You're talking about some of the pressures that the kids felt, that you felt, and again, Mike and I joked around about Mike's recreation basketball league and like even the stuff I've coached, and never anything that was sort of on this level. What did you do as a coach to sort of try to help with, and especially with that age window, 11 to 12? What did you
Yeah.
do to keep these kids out there, not only performing at their best, but also, I know what it's like. And again, like I said, it's nothing near the level of baseball, but like to me in baseball, like all of a sudden, if there's one pass ball or one error, things seem to like implode.
Mhm.
So what did you do? What's your coaching style to sort of like keep these kids level headed? Because it had to be, I mean, I couldn't imagine the pressure, like,
Yeah.
that you must have been going through.
So kind of my style as a coach has been, and I tell parents this, and I know at different ages, you have to get maybe a little more aggressive with kids as far as speaking, but I've never been a coach to yell at kids. I might raise my voice in a baseball manner, but to yell at kids or to show disappointment in a kid, if a kid was to let a ground ball go through his legs and he looks over at me and I'm going like this with my head down, what does that do to him?
Yeah.
Right. So I always try to keep positive and keep up and let them know mistakes are going to happen. Mistakes are going to happen. We got to limit them and we got to stop the mistakes. Once you, and that's just like any sport. We know that. And the kids, they were phenomenal kids. They did a really good job at that. They understood that if you make a mistake, it is what it is. Let's not try to just let those mistakes pile up, because in that situation against teams that good, if you let it, if you let them go, the game can get out of control.
It can snowball, definitely. And that's a
Oh
great
yeah.
answer. I love to hear that. And I don't even think even at our levels, when we get up to high school, I think that's the same sort of answer. I mean, yes, my son's playing JV basketball right now, and if he makes a mistake on a court, like they can't break a press, the coach sometimes will take him out, but he's not yelling at him. He doesn't let him go off to the end of the bench. He talks to him and says, "Hey, here's what you got to do next time," and that's all you can ask for,
Right. And that's
as
all
a
you can
parent.
ask for.
Yeah, and and again, just my input on youth sports. I'm very happy with and again, I was never one to push my kids into things, but they always wanted to do things, even if they weren't the best at it. My daughter did gymnastics and my son would be watching it. So he went into the gymnastics. He's played basketball, flag football. He might not have necessarily gone all in on some things. Like, I don't know if like around here, we have this mini Marauder baseball league. He just wanted to do something in the summer. Wasn't the best baseball player in the world. Liked to catch. His buddies were doing
Wanted to
it.
do
And
something.
he went and did it, and it kept him out of the house for like 5 or 6 weeks. And, and I think that's the important part of sports. Sometimes when people hear youth sports, they think it has to be this all in, I got to spend all this money and trouble. There are plenty of different levels of leagues and activities that you can still get your kid involved in stuff, just to get them active, to try stuff. And if they find that sport that is maybe their thing or something, they can invest more time and money and the style of league into it. And I think that's an important thing to remember, because I think a lot of times when people hear baseball, they immediately think to like what you guys were playing in this little league or like a travel, but there are simple like little league,
Many different levels. Yeah.
yeah. And and again, the one they put down here in Gibraltar, we had like in Nate's age group in that 11 to 12, these kids weren't travel ball players. There's 5 teams just from our area and again, they went out in the summer and they had some fun, and that's all you can
All it's
really ask
about.
for.
Yep.
So again, and I also want to say too, on our end as coaches, I'm so glad that many years ago when I first started teaching, that someone talked me into coaching taking a varsity track job. Even though I just goofed around a little bit and did a little middle school track, never really ran. To me, it's my favorite part of my career is the aspect of coaching and doing the extras. I've coached different things. Obviously, I announce and do other things, but it's working with the kids outside of school. It's the best, and it's made me a better person, made me a better educator, made me just a better person in general, I think. And I see you, and I know Mike personally. There's nothing better than running into athletes down the road. I mean, I have guys that I coached way back in 98, 99, 2000. I'll walk into the bar and they'll be like, "Hey coach," and they'll put your arm
Yep.
around
They
you.
call you coach. Yep.
Yeah, that's a great feeling. You don't have
Mhm.
people coming up. I don't see people coming up down the road going, "Hey librarian, hey, thanks for that
Yeah.
book."
Right.
But you always get people that will call you coach no matter how long ago you've had them as an athlete.
It's a good feeling. That's a good feeling to have.
And I think those, the other outside of basketball, because that was my only really experience. I did run track for a couple years in high school, but when I find a camaraderie too with track, cross country, swim. My oldest daughter's a swimmer that I don't see in other sports as much. I don't know if they're not they're more like niche type sports, but I do see a camaraderie that I think is really cool with some of these things, like even in band, those kids really have a bond and connection. that I don't always see in some of the other sports. So that's what I think is kind of cool. And with track, especially, I always admire that. I always like that. It's a different sort of animal altogether.
Oh, and I agree with that too, because I try to tell my kids, my older boy, he's going to Schoolcraft now, playing baseball. And he played basketball, I think, seventh and eighth grade, and he didn't want to play basketball anymore. He didn't play football. And Cameron, who's in eighth grade now, he played football for the first time last year, right when we got back from the World Series. And he actually, after the third game, he actually broke his arm, his throwing arm. He actually had to have screws put in his right elbow, all that. It was terrifying, but he's back, he's healthy, he's rehabbed, he's good to go. He's really good at football, and I'll never force him to play anything that he doesn't want to play. It's his choice. If he wants to play it, he can play it. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But I do tell my kids that, we love baseball. We're a baseball family. The baseball dugout is special, but to me, nothing compared to Friday night under the lights. Nothing compared to a football locker room. It was different.
Yeah.
It was a different atmosphere as opposed to a baseball dugout, or a basketball locker room is very similar to a football locker room, I'd say too. But I let them know, like, it's not just about the sport; it's about your teammates.
Yeah,
what you do with your teammates. It's huge. It's huge. It's a good feeling to have.
Dude, I'm on this text thread. All these guys: Antoine, Travis Rice, Deontay, Paul Barkey, Sean Gordon. I don't want to miss anybody. We all just connected playing basketball in high school, and these are friendships that now we've kept. And I can name a whole bunch of others, but that locker room experience really connects you to people. If you let it. So yeah, I absolutely love it. That's the part that carries on forever.
Sure
it's a whole nother aspect it's a great aspect that you point out. Excellent. We'd love to hear what our listeners have to say about their youth sport experiences, both hopefully good. There might have been some nightmares out there. Are you okay there, Mike? You look frozen on my thing. Also, are you still here?
I'm here. You hear me?
Okay, there you go. You froze up a little bit. I want to make sure we don't want to leave you. We'd love to hear what people have to say. We're going to move into our overrated, underrated, and we thought of a topic that sort of ties right into youth sports, right? Fundraising. Overrated, underrated, fundraising. It's a part of the gig. It's a part of the deal. As we all know, this is through coaches or through doing this sort of stuff. So with that, we will start with our guest, Rick. What do you got as overrated as fundraising goes?
All right. Well, I actually have a lot of experience in this. My wife is always the head of our fundraiser for our travel ball organization. She's the head of the fundraiser for the Taylor North Little League. I would say, if I had to go overrated, as much as we like going to the restaurants, and I'm not dogging any restaurants, but sometimes you go to restaurants and you'll get a certain percentage of your check, which is great. We love that they do it, but usually you pick a random night, and a lot of people typically forget about that night, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get as much as you get, people going in there. So I'd say that's probably a little more overrated. You usually have the same group of 10 to 15 people that go in there and do that,
Right.
So I would say that's probably one of my overrated ones. And then underrated, I mean, we do our Yeti cooler raffles. I mean, that's a big one for us. We do a Yeti cooler. It's big.
I see those a lot. I see those popping up. I got some baseball families in the area that seems all like baseball, hockey. That seems filled with various bottles of beverages, family friendly beverages.
Family friendly beverages.
All right, there we go. All right, Mike, what about you? What do you got overrated and underrated? We'll just go right through these.
All right, so I kind of went back and forth on this one. Part of the alcohol baskets to me are always over, but I don't drink. No, this is.
Are we gonna all conflict each other's? Because I think we might. This may happen. I'm just telling you. So
yeah, I went with the popcorn one, the popcorn fundraisers. To me, I'm a popcorn snob, and the tins that they cut, it's just not good. It's not. Yeah.
You could probably go with a lot of those things like popcorn, candy bars. I mean, the stuff that's not name brand stuff. That's like,
right.
I mean, that's probably all pretty much overrated.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So
like some of a good Snickers bar, or like some of the real like go to Sam's Club and buy the real stuff.
Yeah.
My underrated is it's more of a general. It kind of our Christmas party this year, we had a staff member do. We all bring in gifts. He brought in like a fishing charter, and I thought that was kind of neat, a neat idea. And I looked this up, and these are things people do in fundraisers: fishing charters, cooking classes. Now I have heard, I talked about this with a couple people. I don't want to have to do any work when I do these fundraisers, but I think these are neat ideas that are kind of outside the box. So I'm just going as a general underrated, those outside the box fundraiser ideas that aren't the typical normal idea.
Yeah. Well, you think back to pre-COVID, the Carlson Athletic Boosters, that trivia night we did was pretty fun. It was a lot of work, but it brought in some pretty good money. But it's just like you said, you weren't necessarily selling things and that sort of thing. My overrated Little Caesars pizza kits. It's not good, and then you have to cook it yourself. So I'm buying this thing. It's not even really that good that I'm buying it, and then I got to sit there and make it, or I just stick it in my freezer. It gets freezer burned, and I throw it away. Like one of the like Nate.
I think we've all been there at one point.
And then there's always that night too, where like you don't want to go get anything. You're like, all right, I'll make the crazy bread.
Yeah.
the one pizza. And then you also like the mechanism of it. I know like we used to have school sponsors that like they get dropped off and they're frozen. Well, you better get them the hell out of here. And if this kid's absent or whatever, now you're stuck with these. And like it's just yeah, like that was that was like low hanging fruit, the Little Caesars. My underrated, but I'm coming this from not a coach's end. I'm coming from the person going to the fundraiser. I like the restaurant thing because all I have to do is show up on the night that it's there and eat and drink like my normal self, and I feel like I'm donating. You know what I mean? I get it though. You're right. I've been on the other end of it. When you're putting it on, it's a pain because it's usually like a Wednesday night or a Tuesday. It's not a Friday night. It's not a Saturday night because they don't want to tie into their busy night.
Yep.
They got to have the flyer, so you got to make sure you have a good parent that's up front with a bunch of and now I think it's a little easier now in this era of email. Like I think you can bring in like something on your phone, right? Do they?
Yeah,
I think they're a little better about.
Bring on a phone, and then while we're there, we kind of go around to the people that are there, and we're like, hey, use this, use this, and the restaurants are usually pretty cool with that.
Yeah, they are good, but I'm just saying, as far as a donator, it's a great fundraiser because like if someone comes on to me and says, hey, I don't have to cook tonight, I can just go out to eat, show my phone, and make a fool of myself and order 20 boneless wings and enjoy myself. So to me, that I'm on the opposite end, but I totally see where you're coming from when you're putting it on. It's not, and you're sort of, you never know what you're going to get. You could have a great night, or you could have done all this stuff, and you're right. It's like your 10 players and their families, and that was it, right?
Yep.
So let me preemptively get this out of the way. Real shocker that you picked food as your
as both overrated and underrated. Hungry Howie's had one that was the gymnastics gym switched from the Little Caesars kits because the Hungry Howie's, you just sell a certificate to go get a pizza from Hungry Howie's. It wasn't even you didn't have to make anything. And that one I actually respected a little more. Okay, the slip was this, you bought the box and it was worth a pizza, and that's
Hungry Howie's did us good. We got Hungry Howie's free for a year. Each kid did. Yeah, we got a certificate. Yeah, so and with me and my son, we always doubled up. So he got his certificates, I got mine. Detroit Wing Company, we got free wings for a year from them.
Jeez.
Nice.
Bubba's go all the time there. We did so many different restaurants, so many so many. Bubba's was huge. Bubba's, big shout out to Bubba's. They take care of us there at Bubba's.
Wow, that's a great. I love that place.
I hear a lot of good things about how good they are to the community, so that's a nice a plug for them. And their burgers are delicious there too.
Yeah, they are.
So, yeah. All right, that's going to bring us to our hot mic takes of the week. I don't know, Rick, do you have something for us? I don't mean to put you on the spot. I don't know if you're
the hot mic take. You're fill me on that one again.
All right,
I mean, just anything that's on your mind that you want to just put out there. I mean,
nothing youth sports wise. I guess if I give a chance to speak at a Little Caesars, we do have a Little Caesars, the travel baseball organization, kind of put a national team together with some of my players and a couple kids from the Motor City Hit Dogs, Little Caesars, and West Side Smash. And we're traveling to Georgia in 2 weeks to go down to a Perfect Game. Perfect Game's the new, baseball kids build profiles, kind of going down south. So that's just kind of something that, we're doing with our TaylorMade organization, some of the kids. And then I do want to discuss about the travel thing since we're talking about youth sports. A big shout out to Taylor North because years ago, and this was a big trend, a lot of kids were just leaving Little League Baseball to go to travel, and that's it, right? You started losing a lot of players. Um, and with our president, Doug Cloutier, um, they implemented like, hey, if you want to keep these kids, we got to kind of work around the travel thing. So we can't, maybe don't schedule some games on Saturdays or talk to these coaches who have travel kids and say, hey, we still want you to play Little League. If you play travel, we still want you to stay here. So, that I think if a lot of Little League started doing that, like kind of how we did it, you'd start seeing a lot of kids stay at Little League and, possibly have a chance to do something like we did in 2021.
That's awesome. That's really
Excellent,
good to hear.
excellent.
I was actually thinking that earlier. I didn't want to monopolize the time at that time with it, but I was wondering about that. Like, because we all grew up Little League. I played at Taylor North Central, so that's good to hear that there's still this push. Just like anything else, you have to evolve, or die, and that's cool that the Little League is doing that, working on travel, because that's the reality now. So that's
Yep.
great to hear.
All right, Mike, what do you got for us this week?
All right, so I am reaching out to the listener this week. Mike, you know a lot about this. Rick, I don't know if we've ever discussed my fears. So I can't stand in this order: snakes number 3, rats number 2, but number 1 is needles. And so I want to know first. This is a 2-part thing. Number 1, I want to know from the listener their fears. Do you have any phobias that I do, and or anything? And number 2, if you've beaten a fear, a phobia, whatever, how did you do it? What did you go about it? Rick, do you have anything there on your end?
I'm right up there with you with snakes. I don't know what it is. I don't think I've ever met a nice snake. Uh, you know, I don't think any snake ever has any good intentions when they're around you. So, snakes say rats. I've never really came across too many rats, but I'm good with that for not to. Needles, not so much. For some reason, I getting poked in the fingers to me is worse than getting a shot in the arm or something like
Really?
that. Yeah, I've always been that way. Um, how am I? I'm kind of I don't like spiders, man. I don't like spiders either. Spiders will make me miss a night of sleep.
Really? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not. Is that a phobia though, or is that just because if I see one
Eh,
kill it, it bothers me? But it's not. I'm not fearful. Like I am fearful of getting my blood drawn. It's a fear.
no, I get that. Yeah, I'd say not so much. We're obviously not around snakes a lot. You might see some spiders in the house or something like that. So probably say it's more just a fear. But as far as a phobia, I mean, other than heights, I mean, I watch. There's times where I will watch a video, whether it's on TikTok or whether somebody sends me something of somebody. There was a video that was sent out of one of the photographers at the Dallas Cowboys game, and she was at the very top catwalk at the very top of the stadium, and there was a camera behind her walking. And when that happens, my hands and my feet start sweating and my legs start hurting.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
legs get weak to the point where I got to shut it off because
Wow.
I'm like, oh. So yeah, so heights for me.
Mm.
Yeah, that's me with heights too. Not like in a building, I'm fine, or like nothing to do with an airplane or anything. But you're right, like something like that that's like unsecured. Like I can't even go on the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is a no go. And snakes aren't really a problem. Varmin, like rats and that sort of thing. I'm not a big fan. But the problem with your needle thing is it's your health. You got to
Yeah.
go get this taken
Yeah.
care of. I mean, you can avoid a snake. You can avoid
Yeah.
I can avoid going up on the roof, but you can't avoid the doctor.
Well, that's
That's a
why I
tough
need
one.
I need the listener. I need some help. I need and I've tried
You
different
need
things. It's
you
just
need to
not.
win one of those Yeti coolers, and then
That'll help you.
You're not allowed to get your blood drawn though when it's
yeah, that's true.
liquid courage won't work.
All right, for me for this week for my hot mic, I thought of this the other day when I took the dog out in the backyard because I looked out back there and it was a little wet and messy. So I'm like, I didn't, and my dog does not like. My dog will stay out there all damn day, and so I'm like, I don't want this dog to come in a mess. So I'm gonna take her out on the leash, and I took the dog out. I looked out. It was midday, nothing but gray. It's cold. The backyard's a mess of half melted snow and dog crap and mush. And I thought, I'm trying to think to myself, we've already bashed the Michigan Four Seasons and winter. What's the worst month in Michigan? Is it January, February, or March? That's what I want to know, because it's one of those three. It has to be one of those three, because, it's sort of like December, we can live with it. It's the holidays. But then once you hit January, it's one of those three. And I sort of want to say, like, when I was out there looking at that January backyard, I'm like, I don't even want to be here in this state right now. Like, it's been gray, that my yard's a mess. Tomorrow, our, of course, Hawaiian Shirt Day at Carlson, gonna be the coldest day of the year we have so far. Coming up is gonna be one of those bone chilling days with the low temps. And I'm just, part of me wants to say right now it's January, but I know once we get to February, I'm going to say it's February. And then you think like, oh, March, we start getting into those 30, 40-degree days, but it's still just as miserable in March.
Yeah.
Coming from a guy that coached track and field when spring sports start up on that March 12th, and you work in the baseball pro. Spring sports in Michigan for public schools are a joke, because the weather doesn't start getting good until you're right at the end of the season. So that's what I want to put out there. I don't. What do you think? I'd like to hear what both of you guys think.
I'm going to say March is not the. I'm sorry, March is not the, because March you have a feel something's about to happen. I think early February is the worst. We're about to enter this. In fact, when the show comes out, it will be, because you're stuck. It doesn't feel like there's any hope on the horizon. Like, we're just getting hammered with this cold right now. Early February, like January, we're still on the Christmas hangover. I'm saying early February is the absolute worst.
I'm gonna say, for me, it's March, only because you're so already done with it. You're done with the cold. You're done with the January. You're done with the February. It's still cold. You know it's right around the corner that it's about to be a little bit warmer, but you've already spent most of the sports have spent so much time indoors over January, February, March, that you just want to get outside, and you just can't quite get outside yet for the most part. And so I think it's March, the anxiety, the anticipation of the good weather coming. And then you'll check the weather and your 10-day forecast, and you're still in the 30s,
nowhere.
and you're like, oh,
And
man.
it's another 31 days too. March
Yep.
is another dang long one. Yeah.
Yep.
And like I said, like us school coaches know, like, it's usually March 12th, 13th. You go out there for that first day of a practice, and there's a wind chill going on, and it always amazes me that it's depressing. And then not only to mention just the ground. And again, if you're a dog owner, it's even worse this time of year. So that's for sure. So, well, that's going to bring us here to the end. We've had a great episode. I want to give a big shout out. You were a great guest, Rick.
Thank you.
I think your commentary on youth sports, and I think part of even your commentary on like Little League, we need more coaches like you. This is the thing. Like Mike and I can both talk about watching youth sports too. You're the model of what a youth sports coach should be. We sometimes only hear about the bad ones out there. The stuff that makes TikTok videos or Twitter videos, people arguing calls at some youth league or rec league. And I truly think, and I think, Mike, do you agree? Most people that are doing it are probably good people, but we only see these horror stories, right?
Right.
I think about the stuff my kids have gone through. I mean, I could name the bad things I've seen on one hand, like a couple of fingers, but the good things I've seen through other, even like, we would play, we'd match up with a travel team that was using the rec league as sort of like a practice, and they hammered us, but they were good guys about it. And that's what I mean. And that's what we need to see more of. Mike, you got anything you want to add?
No, I echo what you're saying. It's a great guest, Rick. It was interesting, Mike, just to let you know how this came about. Rick is very, very tight with the guy. I'm really tight with Ralph. And after the Michigan-Ohio State game, Rick is an Ohio State fan. So they FaceTimed me, and Rick said, I think it'd be pretty cool. Come on. I'm like, hell yeah. I think it'd be great. So but this was better than I could even imagine, man. Great stories. I do want to, we can give our predictions next week, but
next
Rick,
week. Oh, you want to? Yeah, because
we'll get.
You want to give your Super Bowl champion prediction?
Yeah, I'm gonna say, since the Chiefs shouldn't even be there, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go Eagles. I'm gonna go Eagles on this. I'm gonna go Eagles. I'm gonna give a score. I'm gonna go 38-31.
Wow. High scoring game.
A lot of points. Yeah. I mean, they look good, man. We said that last week when we were doing our predictions, that they looked impressive. So, But that's it. I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Great. Again, man, we need to do guests more often because like the guests, we fly high. Speaking of the Eagles, when we have our guests on. So we welcome to February, everybody, the worst month of the year, according to Mike Gervasi in Michigan. So have a great week, and we'll see everybody next week.
Hey, thank you guys.
Thanks, Rick.
Cheers.